Hey ladies, this is Mocha Mommy here bringing you another video, and this one's going to be very quick, and I wanted to kind of get this video out there quickly, and I want to do a better job because I know the last video I put out was not edited very well, so I'm hoping that this one goes better. But I typically don't cover celebrity gossip, but I really found a need to bring this forward because I want to add it to my romance and finance playlist and just kind of bring to light a couple of issues that are going on in the media before you guys kind of get the whole YouTube barrage of opinions. I just want to make sure I give you mine to sort of inoculate you a bit. And I know this is going to sound elitist, okay? And I understand that sometimes if you have, I guess, quote unquote, some quote unquote privilege, you might come across sounding that way, even if it's not intentional. But I'm going to say this anyway, okay? Niggas with money and men with wealth operate in two very different ways. Okay, so niggas with money and men with wealth operate in two very different ways. Let me give you an example. I don't typically watch Manosphere channels. I don't. But somehow I ended up watching the O'Shea Duke Jackson's take and interpretation on the breakup of A-Rod and J-Lo and why A-Rod is not a simp for wanting to reconcile. So in it, I'll give him credit because he did acknowledge that not every man wants to deal with a quote unquote broke hoe. And although I would never put it in that language, there are men who prioritize power couples over trophy wives. This is one of the reasons why A-Rod's first wife was a college professor. The next serious relationship he had was with a pediatrician. And the next relationship he had, even when he was with like an actress like Cameron Diaz, she was very business-minded. His two daughters, he's very hands-on with both of them. And the women that he has mentored them are women like Dylan Loren, Ralph Lauren's daughter, who also owns her own franchise of candy companies, and Martha Stewart. So he's very serious about being with business-minded women and having business-minded daughters. He also prioritized how well his daughters would get along with any future girlfriends and spouses. And this is some of the reasons why he chose who he chose. You also have to realize that men with wealth invest a lot in their kids. Men with wealth invest a lot in their partnerships and are very careful and very deliberate. Even though I don't agree with A-Rod and all the stuff that he's been doing and stuff that's been going on, I can see why he would want to create a power couple dynamic as opposed to just getting a trophy wife. Kind of what these quote unquote niggas with money would pretty much think that an athlete should do. We also kind of have to look at the reality of A-Rod's situation, okay? A-Rod's last World Series championship was in 2009. A-Rod is also going to kind of end up in the Barry Bonds kind of cycle when it comes to the Hall of Fame. Will his controversy keep him out? It's a very strong possibility. He also has to come to terms with the fact that many of the home run records that he made while with the New York Yankees were broken by Giancarlo Stanton and now possibly Aaron Judge. So that legacy is going to kind of be erased. We are also kind of looking at the fact, so now you have the fact that he's not going to get into the Hall of Fame. His last World Series was 2009, over a decade ago. And the fact that his records have been broken. And both the Yankees and the Rangers. I think Prince Fielder broke his home run record with the Rangers. I'd have to look that up. But so he's losing celebrity. Okay. You also have to realize that there's only so many people that ESPN or any of the major sports networks can fit on a dais, okay? There's only so many people they can fit. So you kind of have David Ortiz and Manny Ramirez. They kind of cover the Hispanic angle. Yes, A-Rod is Dominican, but he's second generation, right? Where he was born in like Washington Heights and grew up in Miami. So he doesn't speak Spanish. Whereas, as well as a David Ortiz or a Manny Ramirez, who can get those interviews for the non-English speaking athletes. He also doesn't really have that strong of a connection to like the Dominican Baseball League, where he can kind of call out prospects the way that Manny Ramirez and David Ortiz can. And also you kind of have the market, the brothers, right? That's kind of Frank Thomas, and that's Ryan Howard, and pretty much black men in baseball are pretty much around that age. It's kind of a shame that you don't really see younger black men really into baseball. It's almost like they would rather co-sign on Kyrie Irving and the entire Brooklyn Nets dysfunction rather than celebrate the black excellence that is, Mookie Betts, McCutchen, and some of the other black players that are in the league right now. So yeah, that's unfortunate, but it's just where we are right now in our culture. So, you can have those black men in their late 40s and 50s because basically that's the demographic that they have to cover. Frank Thomas and Ryan Howard pretty much covers that aging demographic. So what he has to now do is, prove his worthiness. So he's pretty much kind of like the white guy on the dais, unfortunately. Okay. That's who he kind of identifies with. But the reality is if someone like Ross were to leave the Chicago Cubs dugout, which might be possible if they keep heading the trajectory they are this season, maybe even someone like, I hate to say it, somebody even like David Wright or Don Mattingly, if they will kind of, Joe Girardi, if they kind of decide to leave their front office positions, they would have a little bit more clout because they're Hall of Famers or potential Hall of Famers. And they're a little bit closer to the World Series contention, because they're the World Series was kind of played, and the World Series that they appeared in are a lot closer than that A-Rod has appeared in, if that makes any sense. They're just a little bit more relevant because A-Rod's championship was so long ago. So A-Rod is kind of competing for his celebrity. That's where the value of a celebrity wife would kind of come in. It keeps him a part of the conversation. Now, the thing about it is, okay, I hate to say this, keep saying this, but niggas with money pretty much don't value women, right? They don't value their contribution. They don't value their achievements. They don't value who it is they are, their motherhood. They don't value their business sense. They don't value their celebrity. They don't value their knowledge, their input. Because they don't value those things, they could really see why J-Lo is somebody who's disposable or interchangeable, because they don't value all of the other things that come with womanhood. All right, the other thing I'd like to discuss is probably the Bill Gates, Melinda Gates divorce. This is another issue, right? Where people gonna be like, these bitches be taking all their money. I'm not gonna get married because these bitches be taking all their money. Okay, let's get this straight. Jeff Bezos has already remade the money that he settled for in his divorce. Okay, that's how quick rich people make money. Money's not that big of a deal, okay? The big deal here is the power dynamic, and the big deal here is, all right, if this video does not get flagged, but I'm just going to put it out there. Pretty much we're going to be sitting on the cusp of antitrust legislation coming down from Washington. All right, antitrust legislation coming down from Washington. So big tech is probably going to see antitrust legislation. So it's in the best interest of an Elon Musk. It's in the best interest of a Bill Gates or a Jeff Bezos to get divorced. And I'm putting that in air quotes, and then have a certain amount of money, controlling shares, and asset, be in a different house under the same last name. You see what I'm saying? Like, especially if that person was very instrumental in the building of that company. Okay, so a Melinda Gates, okay, you have to realize that Melinda Gates, master's degree from Stanford, right? She was the head of marketing or sales for like HP, Hewlett Packard. So she was like their head marketing director. So she was basically the person who was very responsible for getting Windows operating system into the retail PC market. So she was very instrumental in making sure that every home PC had Windows because she had those type of connections. She was also very instrumental in the idea of the Xbox. Microsoft could have made hundreds and millions of dollars, right, if they would have just made CPUs, central processing units, for Sega and for their Dreamcast, the next generations of Dreamcast, because that was what the idea was. But Melinda Gates had the idea to headhunt the type of staff who can help him make his own gaming console. And even though it wasn't profitable for the first 3 to 5 years it came out, it then began to revolutionize gaming. And now we're having the Xbox Game Cloud and Stadia and all that stuff like that. Had it not been for Melinda's vision to say, hey, instead of taking a couple of 100 million from the Japanese gaming companies, let's create a multi-billion-dollar gaming platform of our own. And then program games that's custom and exclusive to it. Like, you see what I'm saying? She was very much a part of it. And so all they're seeing is just some bitch taking a check. Niggas with money, that's what they see. But what they really don't see is how she's an incredible and instrumental architectural part of the success that Microsoft has today. All right, now, do you guys remember earlier on in the videos, I had suggested some books that you read? And one of the books I had recommended was Capital Gains by Chip and Joanna Gaines. And one of the most pivotal stories that kind of came out of this book was when Chip was renovating a home. Okay, now Chip Gaines was already pretty decently successful in himself. He was pretty much renting out homes that he had bought on auction and foreclosure, that he was just kind of renovating and then renting them out to like Baylor frat boys, basically, who wanted to live off campus. Joanna kind of had the idea of creating single family homes. So as opposed to, because they were a married couple with young children. So therefore, as opposed to making like $10,000 a year in rental income, now you're making close to $20,000 to $30,000 per transaction in selling single family homes. So there was one single family home that they were renovating, and they didn't have enough drywall to complete the project. This was a very small project. It was very low budget. And Joanna had the idea of just painting, repairing, and leaving the shiplap exposed. Chip Gaines was so afraid, like, I don't think I can do that. It's going to look incomplete. They're going to think that we did a bad job. And Joanna was kind of like, no, trust me. I really think that this could be a really great design feature. And he did just that because he valued her input. He valued the fact that, yeah, I've trusted her so far on when it came to managing my books, because by trade, Joanna Gaines is a bookkeeper. Okay, she's a certified bookkeeper. Also, he valued her input when it came to transitioning from rental properties to single family homes. Then he trusted her input when it came to shiplap. Shiplap then became their multi-million-dollar destiny. Okay, that $150 piece of drywall would have covered up his multi-million-dollar destiny. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Shiplap became the biggest design feature of the 2010s, and that is what got HGTV's attention and the attention of the nation by trusting Joanna's input. Niggas with money don't act like that, okay? They don't trust the input that women have because they think they're better. They think women are less. They don't think that we have a lot to add to the table. And that's why you have a lot of these controlling, you don't know what you're talking about, condescending attitudes, because niggas with money versus men who create wealth are two very different classes of men. This is constantly why I'm trying to tell you to market yourself differently, to build up your financial literacy, to read the books that I'm constantly recommending, and to also travel and move in circles that that these men tend to corrugate in. You have to realize when it comes to Chip gains, a lot of the project managers, structural engineers, architects, real estate agents, bankers, building suppliers were some of his buddies that he played Little League with and who played baseball with him at Baylor. Do you see why I get you guys to move the way I'm trying to tell you to move? Men who create wealth have a different mindset than niggas with money. Okay, remember I told you in my Bottom Shelf Brad video about the girl that I mentor. She ended up marrying a guy who is currently an X-ray tech and is now studying health physics. Technically, he's not a quote-unquote high-value man because he doesn't earn six figures, and he also probably won't. The market for that doesn't dictate six figures right now for health physics. It doesn't. But he was debt-free. He was extremely diligent with his money, and he did live at home. Okay. Now, a lot of people, you're like, you date some dude who lives at home. This is why it's really important, especially you ladies in your 20s, to really vet and ask questions. So if a guy lives at home, don't turn your face up. Just be like, oh, that's great. You and your family must be really close. Or how do you guys deal with the challenges of things like privacy and division of labor when it comes to all living together? You want to kind of ask those type of questions, because then you might find out that, okay, yeah, I'm living at home, but it's because my parents don't believe in renting and they want me to have a down payment for my house. Yeah, I live at home, but it's only because I'm starting my own business. So it could be lots of other different reasons. Get to the bottom of it, especially if you're in your 20s and especially in this economy, before we start kind of writing off guys who live at home. That's why I'm always suggesting really low stakes dating and low stakes where you're not spending tons of time, building a roster. Because, he might be living at home now, but if he stays on your roster, when he gets on his feet, it might be good to kind of have that guy in the back pocket, on the back burner, So this is why I tell you guys what I tell you, because niggas with money and men with wealth move very differently. Now, the girl I mentor, congratulations to her. She is now expecting. So she will not be working full time anymore. She will just work one day a week still in the same hospital system. So she keeps her pay grade, her pay rate, but just one day a week in an outpatient clinic. She just felt that being around things like formalin, which is the formaldehyde substance that clinical lab techs use to hold biopsy samples or things like that. She didn't feel safe working around that, and I don't blame her. So she's just kind of doing like rapid straps and rapid COVID testing at an outpatient clinic, and blood tests at an outpatient clinic. So she's going to be just doing that once a week. Then come July, she's just going to go on to her maternity leave. And then just after, while that, they're going to be stacking money towards her short-term disability, kind of like those AFLAC plans, so that while she's home, she's going to be collecting a certain percentage of her salary. And then she's just going to work that one day a week to keep her licensing up, to stay in the hospital system, to continue to not lose her seniority. Also, the particular hospital system that she works for, I worked for them in the past too. They're pretty good to their part-time and as needed employees, where if all you do if you just do 1,000 hours a year, you can still contribute to the 401k and still be eligible for benefits. So typically what I would do is I would probably only work maybe, again, like once or twice a month, but then I would also cover vacations around Christmas and 4th of July, because 1,000 hours a year is like less than 20 hours a week. So, and that still allowed me to kind of put money away for retirement to keep my seniority. It also gave me a lot of access to their like tuition reimbursement, to their continuing education program. So it just gave me a lot of access by just even holding on for that little bit. And she's going to take that option. I don't work for that hospital system anymore, but it was a really good opportunity for me. And I think this is going to be a good opportunity for them as a couple. So again, now, even though this is an immense amount of wealth, like you would get with a Bill Gates or an A-Rod, these are wealth decisions that men are making in their 20s. Okay. And I would so much rather you younger women who are also in your 20s look for that kind of mindset in a guy, as opposed to looking for a guy in their 40s who has six figures. That's my personal opinion, because sometimes from my experience, the reality is in American economy, the majority of the men who make six figures are in fact over 40. But a lot of times that comes with a tons of obligations. That comes with ex-wives and alimony payments and child support and debts. And, it's just something that if I were in my 20s, I would not want to deal with. Now, what you guys do is up to you, but that's just my opinion. So again, I'm going to reiterate for you guys to read Capital Gains. I'm going to reiterate for you guys to continue to put yourselves out there. I'm going to continue to reiterate to you guys to build your own financial literacy using things like Clark Howard, Jaspreet Singh, Anthony O'Neill, Jasem's Gems podcast. Patricia Bright, I think, is another really great one. So just really listen to people who are trying to build wealth and not just niggas with money. This is Mocha Mommy, and I'll see you in the next video.